here, the Kiwi Health Detective, root cause and lifestyle medicine practitioner. And today I want to talk about the future of medicine, and in particular, the digitization of medicine. Because it seems to me, from what I'm watching and seeing and hearing, that this is a direction which medicine is wanting to take us more and more. And personally, I question this, and I'll talk more about why I feel I question that in a minute. But I just want to give a little bit of a background to my introduction to this topic of digital medicine. So back in 2016, I found myself attending certain conferences, medical conferences, and one of them in particular was called HINZ, which stands for Health Informatics New Zealand. It was the HINZ conference. And I attended this conference twice. I think it was 2016, 2017. And what was really interesting was the focus, or the beginnings of this focus, on digital medicine, on smart everything, on remote consultations, and lots of tech. So that was really my introduction to this topic of digital medicine. But back then, I didn't really understand it hugely. I wasn't exploring it hugely. I was actually at the conference because I was wanting to share my findings on how the human body can heal itself without the intervention of medication or supplements or any external interventions of any kind. That was why I was there, and I was presenting. I presented both years and actually won an award, very surprisingly. But I was there to try and help people understand that the body has the capacity to self-heal if we understand what is actually causing the problem. And before I forget to say it, because when I do these podcasts, I don't have this scripted out. I have a few ideas of what I want to talk about, and then I just start talking. And then as I'm talking, ideas pop into my head, and usually about 10 ideas pop into my head, and they're all vying competitively to want to come out of my mouth at the same time, and I can only get one idea out at a time. But what I want to say before I forget is that we have been in a system of Western medicine now for about 150 years, and that system has been focused on addressing the end result of the problem. We live in a universe of cause and effect, and when we get symptoms, when we get illness, that is an effect, it is an end result. And Western medicine primarily does not try and get to the root cause. It tries to deal with the end result. And as far as I can see, with this digital medicine that is wanting to be brought in by whoever it is that is wanting to bring it in, it's still the same thing. They're still not looking at the cause. They're not trying to really look at the fundamental cause of why, for example, people get cancer. And I use that as an example because I'm going to be playing a couple of clips during this podcast, and a couple of them are focused around cancer. So it's so important, I believe, that we really understand that we need to look in a different direction if we really want to solve our health problems. And we need to understand what the cause of the problem is rather than trying to throw 100 different solutions at the end result. And now that is moving more and more to digital solutions. So let me start with a clip by Mike Adams, the health ranger, who is talking about how in the future we will have AI doctors and AI dentists.
So right now, AI And I'm talking open source models here, like DeepSeek. There's another one called OpenThinker. These are based on the Quen models out of China. They're very, very good models. This can replace, right now today, at least 50% of office jobs. Office jobs, that is people sitting at computers and doing things on their computer, those will be practically non-existent within 5 years. Gone. GP medical doctors, gone. Obsolete. Why? Because you're going to log into a medical avatar, and that'll be either promoted by your insurance company or the government or a state government or something. You'll log in. Oh, the doctor can see you now. Guess what? There's no wait time. Yeah, because it's an AI doctor. And you're going to tell that AI doctor, oh, what hurts? Oh, got elbow pain, whatever. Can't pee, whatever it is, right? And that doctor will be given permission by the government, by Congress, to prescribe prescription drugs. And it'll be trained on big pharma information. So big pharma, instead of having controlled puppet doctors that push pharmaceuticals, they will be puppet AI doctors that push pharmaceuticals, and the human doctors will not be in the loop. You'll still have surgeons, mind you, for a while, until the robot surgeons come on board and replace that, and you'll have robot dentists and everything. You'll still need a human dentist to sort of diagnose and build up a plan to tell the robot what to do, like we need a crown on, number 19 or whatever. But the dentist won't drill the patient. The doctor won't do the surgery, and a doctor sure as heck won't be prescribing drugs.
So can you imagine going to the doctor, and actually it's not a doctor, it's just a robot, and you're telling this robot your symptoms, or this AI chatbot your symptoms, and they're prescribing you medication because they have this huge ability to search a massive amount of database information and then prescribe whatever medication. How do you feel about that? And how do you feel about going to the dentist and having an AI robot do your filling? Is this what you want? Now, the problem that I see with this is that, as I mentioned before, they are not looking at understanding what is causing the problem. They're just trying to prescribe some medication which is going to try and cover up or mask or deal with or manage the symptoms in some way. So is this actually helping to solve the healthcare crisis? And also, and this is just my opinion, there's one thing, as far as I can see, that AI does not have, which humans do have, and that potentially and probably AI will never have, remembering that AI stands for artificial intelligence. It's not real natural intelligence, it's artificial intelligence. It's right there in the name. What AI does not have is the human heart and the soul. So I am not an expert in AI at all, but as far as I understand, it is not natural, it is man-made, and it can do certain things, but it does not have the intuition of a human being. It does not have the heart consciousness of a human being. It does not have the soul. It does not have the spirit. And why is that important? Well, from my experience as a practitioner, working as a root cause practitioner who has an ability to really help people understand what the root cause of their problem is, and being able to see that root cause that perhaps that client can't see, which is why they come to me for help, is that this ability to see through to the root cause of the problem, which I can assure you is very unique for each individual because we're all completely unique people, is that ability comes from a higher place within me. It comes from my intuition, which is an inner tutor. It comes from my connection with a higher part of me that is guiding me. And as far as I understand at this point, AI does not have that and may never have that. So AI is missing a massive piece of the puzzle of being able to solve the problem. Now, one of the things that we also need to remember is that it seems like we're at a choice point at the moment, and it's like we've come to a crossroads, or rather a fork in the road, where we can either go left or we can go right. And it's interesting because in the esoteric teachings, they literally say you can take the left-hand path or you can take the right-hand path. So the right-hand path would be to take the natural way, to follow nature, to follow the laws of nature, to follow the laws of Tao, of the universe, which is a natural way to go. Whereas what humanity seems to be wanting to do, or some people anyway, is to take the other path, which is an unnatural way, which is this digital route, this artificial route, artificial intelligence, moving more and more towards transhumanism. And transhumanism is when we are merging digital with human, when we're bringing tech into the human being. So for many years now, we've been inundated with smart technology, whether it's your smartphone, your smart tablet, your smart TV, your smart car, your smart laptop, your smart fridge, lots and lots of smart things. And now, more and more, a certain group of people are wanting to steer us into what is called the Internet of Bodies, which is the merging of tech with our human body. And of course, we know Elon Musk wants to do this with Neuralink. But the point is that we are at a choice point of going more and more down this digital, unnatural, artificial route, or we can go down the natural route. And interestingly enough, in the Ren Shui Qigong trainings and teachings, which I've been studying for many years now, we learn that we can actually access our innate superhuman powers through doing inner meditation and Qigong practices, through changing our consciousness, which comes as a result of doing these internal practices. And we learn that actually the route to really developing our superhuman abilities is through doing the inner work. And this can't be shortcut. You can't wish that you have these superhuman abilities, or as they're called in Qigong, special abilities. Like we could say developing a sixth sense, but it's much more than that. We have to do the work, we have to do the practices, we have to develop our consciousness, we have to transform our consciousness in order to start accessing our special abilities and to have what we call the true self manifest, because most of us are operating with what we call our false self rather than our true self. So we do the work, and it may take many, many years and decades and maybe more than one lifetime to make real progress. But as we do this, our consciousness changes and we're able to operate on a very, very different level. On the other hand, you have these group of people in the world who are wanting to go down this more transhumanism, digital tech, AI route, creating the Internet of Bodies and merge tech with humans and create some sort of cyborg. I really don't quite know where it's going to lead, but I hope that you can see the choice that we have. So let me now play the second half of the Mike Adams Health Ranger snippet.
Think about what's going to happen to our economy, Mike. And those are just some examples. Most of what people do in the economy is obsolete, and it will have essentially zero value. And I'm sorry to keep talking, but one more critical concept. The fact that cognition, the idea of cognition, which is what these models are capable of achieving. And we need to talk about the fact that deep-seek reasoning self-emerged. It was not even programmed into the system. It wasn't written. There was no script. There was no engineer that said, we want to make it think through the steps. That emerged on its own. There's a sense of self-awareness that came out of this model through a process called fine-tuning. And that has been recreated by Berkeley and other labs all over the world. You can give a language model self-awareness. That's happening right now. Okay, I can do it on my desktop with the graphics card I have. These models are so advanced that they will make the cost of cognition essentially zero. So what is cognition? The ability to be an engineer, to solve a math problem. Well, the cost of solving a math problem is going to go to zero. What is cognition as an attorney? The ability to write up a complaint or whatever. That usually requires many years of training as an attorney and knowledge of the law, etc. Well, DeepSeek or the next model will just do that for a penny, right? So the cost of cognition goes to zero for physicists, for chemists, for every thinking trade that you can imagine, for screenwriters, for legislators, you name it, it goes to zero. Then how does our economy function when the value of a doctor, a GP that talks to patients and prescribes drugs, the value of that interaction is pennies instead of hundreds of dollars? How does our society function then? Then you realize why Elon is pushing the UBI, the Doge dividend UBI, because that's going to be, they're going to have to pay everybody to not riot.
So as you can see, he's talking about AI and cognition and reasoning. And interestingly enough, apparently AI was not programmed to have awareness, but it seems to have now got awareness, which is pretty fascinating, and which does beg the question, is this all part and parcel of the expansion of consciousness that humanity is going through? And I'm not going to go into detail now on the topic because it's a very big topic, but according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, humanity is going through a massive expansion of consciousness at the moment. And so this may be part and parcel of why AI is coming in at this time. But what is interesting is that Mike Adams asks, well, what is cognition? And I think it's important to remember that cognition is a lot more than the mind, because in our society, especially in the Western society, we have been trained to use our mind, but not to use our heart. And spiritual teachers put a lot of emphasis on cultivating the heart. So in Ren Shui, we cultivate our Xingling, which is our heart consciousness, because the heart is the gateway to the higher mind, to the true self, to our intuition. And unless we cultivate our heart, we will not be able to access these higher abilities that we innately have access to. But in order to access these higher abilities, we need to cultivate our heart consciousness, and we need to work on our consciousness in general as well. So let me now play a clip by Catherine Austin Fitts talking about the Internet of Bodies.
If you look at the pressure that started in early 2020, building enormous momentum in the investment community for this technology and for the control grid. This is at the heart of building the Internet of Bodies and using the AI to connect with humans and living things. I just saw a new presentation on the Internet of Forests, if you can imagine that. So these guys have huge global investment all over the world since early 2020, betting on the digitization of everything, in part using mRNA technology. So this is far bigger and deeper. And I've seen them do a great deal to try and engineer modified hangouts to support mRNA technology. And we see the Trump administration, the president, 2 days, 3 days into the administration, right after the inauguration, proposing Stargate with mRNA technology, selling it as if it's wonderful. He knows how dangerous it is. So the facts are on the table. And, I think Bobby is going to do everything he can, but he's also, you need to understand that this is a much broader, deeper, and what he's up against is the whole control grid. In other words, mRNA technology is an integral part of implementing the control grid. It's not just a health thing.
So here, as you can see, she's talking about how apparently one of the reasons for the creation of mRNA, which of course is what was used for the COVID vaccines and now many other vaccines, is for the digitization of the body. So you may ask, okay, well, how? How are they digitizing the body through mRNA vaccines? Well, we don't actually fully know that yet. There are many people making hypotheses, such as the graphene oxide in it can help connect us up to the internet, and 5G is being used to help us connect up through graphene oxide to the cloud and all this sort of stuff. And actually, I have no idea what is truth and what isn't. But it's interesting that she mentions that one of the reasons for mRNA is the digitization of the human body, and that ultimately the reason for that is to control. And, you think of some of the films that have come out in the last 10 years, and they do say that a lot of the films that come out are predictive programming. In other words, what we see in films and we think it's fantasy is actually a vision of the future to come. And you think of films like The Terminator or all these robot films where robots are taking over, or where people's minds are being controlled by some sort of external control device. Is this what is coming? I can't say, but what is interesting is that it's been shown a lot in films for the last 10, 15, 20 years, and it's being talked a lot about right now. So the last clip I want to play is the CEO, I think it is, of Oracle, who made a statement when President Trump was inaugurated.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
So here he is saying that they're going to use AI to detect cancer tumors, and then they'll be able to gene sequence a tumor, and then they'll be able to individually design vaccines within 48 hours for a particular cancer. In other words, they're going to make vaccines, individual vaccines, using AI to cure people of cancer. Now, personally, this just dumbfounds me, because if one really understands what causes illness, then we're not going to need to use a vaccine to heal the illness. That is not necessarily going to be the answer. And for example, in metamedicine, German new medicine, lifestyle prescriptions, which I've studied in depth for many years now, we learn about the underlying metaphysical reasons for many, many different illnesses, including cancer. And one of the life-changing understandings in this approach to healthcare is understanding that when the body creates a tumor, many times this is actually the body in a self-healing phase. The body is actually doing what it needs to do to heal itself, and part and parcel of that healing is the development of a tumor. And so when we go in and take that tumor out, we're actually interfering with the natural self-healing process of the body. And there are many different examples of cancer, of how this works, for example, in breast cancer or prostate cancer. And it's all about getting to the root of the problem and identifying what is called the emotional conflict theme, the cellular memory, the emotional memory that is being stored in that part of the body that really needs to be cleared in order for the physical body to come back into homeostasis. So this is a very big topic. Not going to go more into it than that. I'm not an expert in cancer. I do understand very deeply in general the process of how the body creates illness and what is needed to resolve that illness. But the point is making some gene sequenced mRNA vaccine really the solution to that cancer? I would really question that. And of course, there will be many people who, if they have grown up, as I did, in the Western medical system and never questioned it and still believe in it right now, and have, for example, never questioned the COVID vaccine and still believe everything their doctor tells them and everything Western medicine tells them, then they are very likely to be the people who will think, wow, that's amazing. I never have to worry about getting cancer, because if I do, I'll just go and get a tailor-made vaccine and I'll be fine. And this is not getting to the root of the problem or really resolving our health crisis whatsoever. So I hope that what I'm sharing here today is maybe leading you to think about things maybe in a different way. And I'm sure there will be much more to say on this topic in the months and years to come. So this is Kim Knight, the Kiwi Health Detective, root cause and lifestyle medicine practitioner.